You try to sue Baltimore police in Baltimore, and that judge is going to be like, you know, we get paid from the same coffers. So you suing them is taking from my paycheck too. Get out of my courtroom. You know, the way I describe it is the Titanic has hit the iceberg and they're stealing the China and rushing to the life raft before anybody else can. And so in this regard, I bring that up because this judge doesn't know, doesn't care. Literally, it's all meaningless. And this is what we see so often in the courts today. I mean, despite the fact that we still have a pretty good system, it really is all about your jurisdiction. So in issues of, say, civil matters, especially, which you're also familiar with, it's all about your judge. And you're going to go to your lawyer and you're going to say, this person did this thing wrong civilly. They've damaged me and I want money. And the first thing the lawyer is going to say is, where can we file this? Where do we have standing? Like, where do we have proper jurisdiction? And unfortunately for you, this happened in a place where, you know what? It's an Obama appointee. Yeah, you're going to lose in 2 seconds. He's going to take one look at you and he's going to be like, nope. Or it's going to be, it's a Trump appointee. You know, this Trump appointee is going to feel this way or that way about it. And it doesn't even matter the merits of the case. It matters the political leanings. And sometimes not even that. I mean, you try to sue Baltimore police in Baltimore, and that judge is going to be like, you know, we get paid from the same coffers. So you suing them is taking from my paycheck too. Get out of my courtroom. Unless there's civil unrest, powerful media interests, and then what they do is the cost-benefit analysis. Am I going to lose more money paying him out or dealing with the negative press and riots that affect this city? Once again, all from the same coffers. So when you see the BLM riots, the cities cave, not just, you know, Baltimore, but many, they cave, they pay out because they're thinking the riots are going to cost the city $15-20 million in damages. Then we're going to have to deal with the legal issues, the PR issues, the staffing, special prosecutor, all that stuff. Pay them their settlement, give them the $10 million, and it goes away.
That happened in New York City where protesters, agitators who had torched police cars, they got a settlement.
Oh, yeah.
It caused millions in damage.
Unreal.
January 20th, 2017, hundreds of far-left extremists, actually thousands, but hundreds were arrested, were firebombing various parts. They were setting things on fire, starting fires in the streets, smashing windows. And when the police arrested a group of hundreds of individuals, primarily wearing black hoodies and masks, they said conspiracy to riot, etc., things of this nature. It all got dismissed because the lawyers argued you can't prove this individual because they were wearing a hoodie was involved in any crime. And so once it got dismissed, they sued and ended up winning, I think, like $1 to $2 million. So the people who destroyed the city got paid by the city cash.
It's infuriating.
Yep.
And you had politicians and Jacob Frey in Minneapolis just bending the knee to the protesters. It's shocking to see that kind of thing happen.
But so how does this get into, you know, big tech censorship, right?
Yeah, it's a weird transition, but it's funny because it goes right out of what you're saying, that the whole, how do we get even about this? So I had this crazy story of what happened to me. You know, it was bad. I had no money. And of course, you know, Facebook's free. They offered this, you know, come build your business on Facebook and you'll get reach and distribution. You just have to come build it, right? That's what they represent to everybody. So we all bust our butts to, you know, that's what we're doing here. We're working to get attention and reach and distribution so that we can essentially sell product or whatever it is. And I wanted to get the story out. So this is before anybody really realized the value of reach and distribution. But I needed reach and distribution. And at the time I was telling my wife, because, I mean, we were so broke. I mean, I remember being on Angel's Food Network. Like we couldn't feed ourselves. I mean, I felt like a failure as a man because everybody else had taken everything from me. And I was bound and determined to get this story out. And my goal was to write a book, and I did. And I never had an editor in it, so there's a lot of mistakes in it. But at the end of the day, it was one of those, I needed to fight back. And the way was to build an audience, get those people to hear what I had to say. So I started a magazine, you know, and I thought, well, I'll at least try to build this out and try to get an audience there. So I started working on Facebook, and I started building an audience as fast as I could. And then one day I discovered the fake fan thing. And I was like, huh. Now, I was doing it like where I would go to events and I was just burning money and there's no good ROI on the whole thing. So I was trying to build this audience. Well, then I realized that the people that had bigger audiences than me, I went to a model who I didn't like. She was actually a really, really terrible person. But she she was just like all about herself, but she had 67,000 fans, which was huge on Facebook in those days. We were talking 2011, right? I had like 14,000, and she was going to share me if I helped promote her. And then when it came time, she's like, I'm not going to waste my time on you. And it's like, oh. Well, when I figured out the fake fan thing, right? This was on Fiverr.
And what is that? What is that?
So they're bots. This was really where the whole bot farming thing for social media became a thing.
What do you mean you figured it out?
So somebody had said to me, well, no, I was just Googling how to build an audience. And somehow it took me to a website called Fiverr, Fiverr, I think it is.
You can hire
Like
people
the
for $5.
task.
Yeah, it's like $5 thing. And it said $5 for 100 fans. And I'm like, well, that's better than the ROI on anything else. So I bought it. And I was like, yeah, I got 100 fans. And they came overnight, boom, done. I got them. I was like, wow. And then a couple weeks goes by, and it's like 500 for $5. And then it's like 1,000 for $5. I'm going, and when it hit 1,000 for $5, and I'm noticing nothing is really changing on my metrics, like I'm just like, why are they just not engaging? So I asked the person I bought it from, I said, are these real accounts? And he said, yes. I said, no, are they like real people? Oh, no. This was all India, right? This was India building these bot farms. And all of a sudden I realized, basic business 101. How many products or books are you going to sell to a fake account? Exactly 0. So I'm like, well, this is no good. I don't care about having numbers. I care about like actually building my life. So I went back to that model and I said, hey, I can get you 1,000 fans if you can get me 1,000 fans. She said, you can't give me 1,000 fans. I was like, yes, I can. So I did overnight. Well, then she was beholden to actually get me 1,000 fans, which was organically, which all of a sudden blew up. Well, guess what? I started realizing all these models wanted, because they didn't know how to monetize back. This is way early, right? This is before OnlyFans and Instagram and everything else. They just wanted the numbers because they would get gigs. So next thing I know, she's getting me but they're all organic. They're real people, right? So as that's building and building and building, my page is going nuts. Next thing I know, I'm like half her size, but she's at over 120,000, and I'm at like 70,000.
So what happened?
Except mine are all real.
Right.
So,
well, it's kind of funny because then I got undermined by her. She realized that we were buying them, so she starts undercutting me the entire thing.
So you were buying fans for her?
For other people.
Okay.
For all the models, which was building my audience organically because they were basically promoting me.
So you were like cheating them, basically.
that sounds like fraud.
In essence, yeah. But way past statute of limitations, and nobody cared. And some of them, when they did care, they kept buying them. So she figured it out and then continued to buy them and go up to about 250,000 fans and basically undermine the whole thing, and it started to drop off. So what did I do? I'm like, okay, well, I'll just expose how it works, because I understood how all the bot farms work at this point and everything else like that. I'm like, okay. So I did, and I put a video out on YouTube. It's still there. And I explained how you could identify it, because like their primary like top city of response was like Romania, Lithuania, and like Egypt and all these other places that were just not American. And mine was like Chicago, right? Well, this was right before the IPO drop of Facebook. This is stuff I haven't talked about on any show. So we let Facebook know, like, hey, look, like a third of your business is like bots now. And they didn't care.
So you bought bots for people on Facebook, then exposed them to Facebook for having
I exposed
accounts?
the whole bot system to Facebook.
Okay.
And it was one of those things that, like I said, they didn't really care. At that point, they all started buying them for themselves. They just wanted audience.
And they were using like Fiverr and stuff for that.
Yeah, they found the same systems and everything else like that. And then it became like a whole industry, and people were buying.
A whole
People were buying like
industry.
60,000 fans. And that wasn't my interest. I had basically gotten out of it within a couple months because I just needed to start. But then by that point, I was large enough to actually compete in it. Then I exposed it, and then Facebook goes public. Well, during this whole process,
what year was this?
So what was it, like 2012? I think they went public.
Okay.
And you'll see the video that I got out there is a couple months before it. So it was public that they knew that a whole bunch of fans, which of course, as soon as the IPO came out, you remember the first 9 months, they dropped massive in value.
Well, there's also a theory that Facebook was essentially in on something to some degree. I'm being very careful with my language here because I don't know. But I remember back in around this time, 2013, 2014, I was having a meeting with with a large television network digital side producers. And we were having lunch and they were talking about whether they wanted to do YouTube or Facebook as their principal channel. And they said, well, Facebook's way bigger than YouTube. I mean, YouTube gets all the video views, but Facebook's bigger. But now with Facebook video launching, they're like, we put up a video on Facebook, we get 2-3 million views in a day. We put it on YouTube, we're getting a couple 100,000. So we're going to shift all of our focus onto Facebook. Well, those views weren't real. And this was a huge, huge problem. I think some of these networks may have accused Facebook of fraud. Facebook ultimately said they were going to change their metrics. But the general idea was, for YouTube, you have to watch for 30 seconds for it to count as a view or something. It might be 15 to 30 seconds. I don't know. They might have changed it. For Facebook, it was if the video played. Like they call those 1 second views, 5 second views, or 30 second views. And so the view count on the video would say millions. Here's where it gets good. These networks making the video, when I said, you realize you're not getting real views. No one's actually watching the video. They're swiping past it. And they go, advertisers don't know that. And so ultimately, all that mattered to a lot of these big companies was, if we get 300,000 views on YouTube, I go to an advertiser and say, here's how much it costs for 300,000. I get 3 million on Facebook. I say, here's how much it costs for 3 million. They say, sure. Short-lived. This went on for a little while. And there's a whole, I mean, maybe I should write a book on the algorithmic ad manipulation of the early 2010s, because I'm sitting in some of these meetings. I was in the top of Freedom Tower in New York City with one of these big digital publishers, and they explained to me how they had to engage in the bot fraud. Otherwise, they'd go out of business, because what was happening was all of these big digital publishers, and you know their names. I'll avoid saying them because for legal reasons, but you've been to their sites. You know who they are. They're digital media websites and news websites, some of the biggest. And I'm talking to this individual who does development and marketing, and she says to me, when we go to advertisers, if we tell them that our organic reach is 30 million, and we need, say, $10,000 for a sponsor spot, they're going to say, company X over here is offering me double that. And we try to explain to them those aren't real views. And they say, I don't know anything about this. All I know is I'm going to go to my boss. And so it went all the way to the top. Here's the fascinating thing about this. So Facebook is running you put a video on Facebook, you get views. The views are meaningless. Nobody actually watched the video. The company then goes to the video producer then goes to, say, I don't know, like an energy drink company, and says, look, we got 3 million views here. They then say, okay, if we buy from you, we can get 3 million impressions, views on our ad. And if we buy from this honest purveyor, we're going to get 300,000. We're going to buy from you because we get 10 times, we get the same amount for 10%, or we get 10 times the views. These people knew. So the media producers knew the views were fake. The buyers knew the views were fake, and the bosses didn't. So what happens is the people who are buying the sponsor spots only cared to go to their boss and say, I was able to secure 100 million impressions through these networks, and it only cost us this amount of money. Aren't I good at my job? And when people started saying, hey, we're looking through the numbers and these are not converting into sales, the response was, maybe the product is bad. Because how do you determine whether or not the ad is the problem or the product is the problem? I can advertise asparagus flavored ice cream. I ain't going to get any sales, am I?
Right.
So what happens then is the people who make the media go to those companies and say, look, we can run the ads for you and our audience will see that. Those are views. Facebook said so.
Yeah.
Or we can show you the organic reach through our Google Analytics. If nobody wants to buy your product, that's not our problem. So they dump this money into this. Then they don't get any sales. And at a certain point, the heads, the CEOs, the C-suite start going through the numbers, and they're like, why are we spending $1 million a year and not getting any sales? Cut the ads. This makes no sense. Right. The whole way through, everybody was in on it. And so I'm sitting in this meeting, and there's something called ad rights distribution, where what companies would do is they would use bot farm websites. You make a website. They contact India, where they have the bot farms. You've seen the videos where they have 500 cell phones on the wall, and they're all plugged into a terminal. They can control each one with the keyboard. And they say, we're going to make a website. It'll look like 25 celebrities who have weird faces. And every page has 100 ads on it. And it'll show one picture, like Tom Cruise. And then when you want to see the next in the slideshow, it reloads a new page with another 100 ads.
Yep.
That bot farm will send 1,000 accounts to that one page, generating 100 times 1,000. You click next, 200 times 1,000. They would then show through their tracking and analytics, we got 1 million views. They're not real people. They would then distribute the rights to those ad sales to large networks. So let's just say, we'll call the company Golden Media. I'll make up a name. Golden Media would generate 15 to 20 million views per month organically on their videos and their content. They would then go to, viralclickbait.patriot/win or whatever, and say, we're going to buy the rights to all those ad sales. Now their 20 million per month is 120 million per month. They then create a docket, a presentation where they go to advertisers and say, our network gets 120 million views per month, buy from us. And everybody knew that it was a scam. So, final point, as I'm sitting on the top of this tower, they said, we don't do that, but we're looking at doing ad rights distribution because we don't have the organic numbers relative to the big networks that are making all of this money. I think it was one of the greatest fraud schemes we've ever seen pervade. And I do believe one of the reasons we saw a major collapse in digital media near the end of the 2010s and even into the 2020s, Vox layoffs, SB Nation, was because advertisers realized they had been defrauded and then started pulling all of the money. And then all of a sudden, these networks didn't have revenue anymore and couldn't keep their staff on board.